Welcome and hello. This is a video exercise in MODSIM. And in this exercise, we're going to be dealing with storage right reservoirs. All right, so what I have on the screen is my MODSIM. I'm going to sketch out a network, add some data, run the simulation, and then view the results. Let's start by going up to the MODSIM menu and then click on extensions. Now, the extension that we need to add for our storage right reservoir to appear in the node palette is this first one right here, storage right extension. So check that on. And I'm also going to check on water rights extension just out of habit. These two often work together. Click apply and click OK. And you notice we now have a storage right reservoir over here to be able to add to our network. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and drag one of those storage right reservoirs into the map. I'm going to just call it Res1. I'm going to add a second storage right reservoir just beside it and rename that to Res2. All right, a couple more elements I want to add to my network is going to be a non-storage node. I'll just call that NS1, as well as a couple consumptive demand nodes, which will be D1 and D2. So let me go ahead and update the names, D1 and D2. Okay, let's connect our network now. So Res1 is going to flow down to NS1, and then Res2 to NS1, and then NS1 will connect to D1 and to D2, just like that. All right, so I resized and kind of repositioned things here. Next, I'm going to add some properties to my reservoirs, Res1 and Res2. Let's start with Res1. So I'll open up the properties editor box. And then in the general tab, I'm just going to add some geometry data, some maximum volume. So that'll be 100,000 acre feet. The minimum volume I'll say is 20,000 acre feet. And then the initial I'll say is 60,000 acre feet. So the volume is acre feet is the units. The priority is 100. I'm going to return to the storage rights tab in just a little bit. But for now, I'm just going to click apply and OK. I'm going to make reservoir 2 the exact same volumes as reservoir 1. So let's go ahead and do that. Res 2 is the name of the reservoir. Maximum 100,000, minimum 20,000, and 60,000 for the initial, which means our initial storage will be 40,000 acre feet, and then the total active storage is 80,000 acre feet because the minimum of 20,000 basically is an inactive volume within the reservoir. Okay, so priority of 100, that's fine. Storage right tab, again, we're going to come back to that a little bit later. All right, so I want to define the demands now. Demand D1, I'm going to open up the properties box for that. I'm going to set this to a constant about 1,000 acre feet per month, which is going to be constant for the entire simulation. This is going to be using the default simulation duration. The general tab shows a priority of 100. Let's change that to 90. Apply. Okay. And then D2, it's going to be a little bit different. It's still going to have a priority of 90. So let's make that update in the general tab. And then in the time series tab, I'm going to change the flow rate to 4,000 acre feet. That's the demand here at D2. Apply. Okay. And then in the MODSIM menu, if I bring up the network settings, and if I click on the time step tab, I'm going to use the default settings here, but I just wanted to show them to the viewers. It's going to be a 1 month time step for a 12-month total duration for the year 1980. Okay, so no changes there. Okay. Next, what I want to do is add a couple storage accounts to each of my reservoirs, Res1 and Res2. So let's open up Res1 first and open up properties. Now, Res1 is going to have a storage account for both D1 and D2. Let's start with defining the account from Res1 to demand node D1. I'm going to click on the storage rights tab right here. Currently, there's no storage rights. We have the data down here for our minimum volume, total available volume, and initial volume. So we're going to revisit that once we create some accounts, create a right. Here is the create right button. I'll go ahead and click that. I'm going to name this right res1 and then dash D1. And then the type here is storage right. That's correct. Looks like it's disabled anyway. Link cost, I'll say is 0. And then account volume, I'm going to set this at 10,000. And that's in units of acre feet. I'll say there's no maximum flow rate, no storage right date. I could use that date if I was creating multiple write accounts and I wanted the costs to be automatically assigned based on that date, but I'm going to just say the link cost is 0. So I'll click apply. And then in this group ownership tab and rights users tab, let's start with the group ownership tab first. I'm gonna say that this reservoir has just one group and its initial storage is 5,000 and its total amount is 10,000. Now this 10,000 amount right here needs to be equal to the active or the account volume, which is right here. So that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and click apply and then click OK. So here is that account in my reservoir one. It's a storage account with a total of 10,000 acre feet, starting with 5,000 acre feet. Now, the reason down here at the bottom we have these warning exclamation point yellow triangle symbols, it's because the total volume of storage and the initial volume of storage of the sum of the water rights defined in this table here do not match up with see if I click on the general tab, with the total volume and the initial volume in this table right here. So in this table, we know that 100,000 minus 20,000 is the total volume. That's 80,000 acre feet. And the initial volume is 60,000 minus 20,000, which is 40,000 acre feet. All right, so to fix that and make these warning signs go away, I'm going to create a second storage account in my reservoir one. This is going to be for demand node D2. Right, so I'm going to click on the create write button, and similar to what we did with demand node D1, this is going to be a res1 dash D2 is what I'm going to name it. I'll say, yeah, storage write is the link type. That's correct. Link cost, I'll keep that at 0. Now the account volume, this is going to be 70,000 because we have a total of 80,000 acre feet in the reservoir for storage. 10,000 have already been accounted for with that Res1 D1 storage account. This is Res1 D2, so I'm just going to set this to 70. And then over in the group ownership tab, I'm going to set this to 70 as well. And then the difference between 40,000 and the 5,000 initial volume is 35,000. So I'm going to set this value right here to 35,000 acre feet as the initial storage of water in the storage account 2 from Res1 for the demand node D2. So if I click apply and then go back to the general tab, okay, that looks good. I'll click OK. And now the warning icons have disappeared. Everything looks balanced. And I have my two different storage accounts in my reservoir one with the data for the cost, account volume, and initial volume. All right, very cool. Let's click apply and click OK. Next, what I want to do is make the same edits to my reservoir 2. So I'm going to open up reservoir 2 and then click on storage rights. I'm going to click on create write. And then the only difference here is we're going to see res2 in a few places that said res1 with reservoir 1. So let's define the account for reservoir 2 demand node D1 first. That's why I'm labeling it the link name, what it is. This is the accrual link, which represents the storage right or the storage account. So here's the link cost. I'll leave that at 0. The account volume, again, I'll say that's 10,000. And then heading over to the group ownership tab, I'll say 10,000 with an initial storage of 5,000. Apply and OK. And one more account, which will be for Res2 D2. I'll update the name D2, link type, storage right. The volume account will be 70,000, which is the total in acre feet. Go over to group ownership, paste that in, and then 35,000 is the initial storage in reservoir 2 for the account demand node D2. Okay, now right now I'm calling this is defined under the group ownership tab, but there's also the rights users tab. Now right now there's no storage contracts available in the rights users tab. However, once I create a storage ownership link to these demand nodes D1 and D2, we'll be able to edit the data in the rights users tab, which is actually what I want to be doing for this exercise. I was just demonstrating the data input for group ownership tab as a way to resolve the issue in the warning messages down here. So let's return to the individual storage accounts, assign them to their users, but right now we need to create the storage ownership links, which is at D1 and D2. So let's start with D1. This is the link from NS1 to D1. I'm going to convert it to multi-link right now because it will be a multi-link. I'm going to edit the first link within the multi-link, pull that off to the side. I'm going to name this NS1 underscore D1 dash res1, referring to the amount of flow from NS1 to D1 that's coming from the storage account in Res1. The link type, I need to switch this over to storage contract. And then the right name, I need to set that to Res1 D1. The relative order, I'm going to say that is 1, which means the water in the storage account Res1 D1 will be used to satisfy the demand at D1 prior to the storage account in Res2. To keep things simple, I'm just going to skip all the other steps. We're not going to do any channel loss or channel capacity data. So I'll click apply and OK. And then I'm going to create a second link in the multi-link. Click create link. This is going to be NS1 D1 dash res 2. And then switch that over to storage contract. The right name will be, I want res 2 D1. And then this is going to have a relative order of use of 2. Click apply and click OK. So I have my two storage contract links right there. Apply, OK. I'm going to make the same changes for the multi-link here to demand node D2 now. So convert to multi-link, and then let's start with this one first. Edit the link. This is ns1 underscore D2 dash res1. The link type here is going to be storage contract. The right name, I'm going to make sure I pick the right one here. It's going to be res1 D2, and then I will set that to be a relative order of use equal to 1. Apply, OK, create link. This is the last one here, the last storage ownership link. Go with a dash res2. The link type is going to be storage contract. The right name is going to be res2d2, res2d2, and then relative order of use is going to be a 2. Apply and OK. All right, so apply, OK. Now what I want to do is return to these storage rights, reservoirs, res1 and res2. And instead of using group ownership, I'm going to go to the storage tab, click on my both my accounts. I'll do res1 D1 first, edit. We just move this over here. Group ownership, 5,000 and 10,000. I'm going to delete that. And then in the rights users, I now have this storage ownership link labeled with the initial value. I'll say it's 5,000, just using the exact same numbers as before. 10,000, apply. Okay, this is just a warning to say, am I sure I want to make the change? Yes. I think I'm going to see that same message a couple more times. Okay, click OK. And then res1 D2, go ahead and make that edit. I probably could have done it a little bit better in the setting this up, but 35,000 and 70,000. And the rights users, I'm going to set this to 35,000 and 70,000. Okay, apply and yes, okay. Apply. We need to make the same changes here to res2 properties, storage right. Let's go with res2 D1 first. Just going to make the same edits as before. Thankfully, it's the same numbers as reservoir 1, so it's not too hard to remember. The reservoir 1 data is 5K and 10K for initial and the total. Apply, yes, okay. And then res2 D2, edit right, and then group ownership, so remove that. Rights users, it's going to be 35,000 and 70,000. Okay, apply, yes, okay, apply, okay. All right, I'm ready to run the model finally. Let's go ahead and save our network and then come up to MODSIM, run MODSIM, and then click OK. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at those results. So let's take a look at Res1 first. Right click and graph. All right, so what we're seeing here is the release of water from Reservoir 1. It starts the beginning of the simulation releasing 5,000 acre-feet of water per month. And then after about 5 months, it drops down to 4,000 acre-feet. And then in September, 3,000 acre-feet. And then the last 3 months, it is 0. The reason why it's 0 is because there's simply no more water left in any of the storage accounts, both the demand D1 and D2. So this right here is basically representing the slope of the volume plot. Let's go ahead and bring that up, or we should say the negative slope. So we should have negative slopes here. The water storage begins at 60,000 acre-feet. That's the starting volume we set. Then it decreases all the way down to 20,000 acre-feet because all of the water in both storage accounts for D1 and D2 have been fully exhausted. Now, what might not be obvious from this plot right here is the slope changes. So for the first, I think it was 5 months, we have a slope of negative 5,000 acre-feet per month. And then it switches around beginning of June, I believe, right here to a negative 4,000 acre feet per month. And then right here, it's kind of hard to tell, but we should have a slope change again to just negative 3,000 acre feet per month. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at Reservoir 2 and then talk about the differences between Res 1 and Res 2. And maybe what I mentioned about slope change will be a little bit more obvious. So right click on Reservoir 2 and I click on the graph. And then let me check out the flow first, which is right here. Okay, so basically we have no flow out of the reservoir for the first 5 months. And then for the next 3 months, there is a flow out of the reservoir. We can call it a reservoir release of 1,000 acre feet per month. And then in September, which is kind of the corner case, that is 2,000 acre feet per month, 5,000 acre feet per month, 4,000 acre feet per month. So this right here, again, is going to represent the negative slope that we see in the volume plot for Reservoir 2. Let's go check out that volume. Boom, here it is. We keep a constant 60,000 acre feet in the reservoir for the first 5 months. And then here's the slope of negative 1,000 acre feet per month, negative 2,000 acre feet, negative 5, and then negative 4. And what's happening here is that the water in the storage account for Reservoir 1, D1, is exhausted first after 5 months. And then it starts drawing its 1,000 acre foot demand from the storage account in Reservoir 2. And then that goes on for another 5 months. And then finally, D1 is out of water. If I go ahead and open up the graph here for D1 and I looked at the flow, let me toggle this over to flow. Boom, what we have is in the first 5 months of the year, it's receiving 1,000 acre feet from the link NS1 D1 Res 1, which is the storage account from Res 1. And then for the next 5 months of the year, which is this orange plot, we're receiving 1,000 acre foot per month for those 5 months from Reservoir 2 storage account. And then after that, the last 2 months of the year, the demand is not met. And then if we take a look at D2, the storage ownership link from D2, we have a similar situation. Let me go ahead and expand these and then click on, how about Res 1 first? Here's the flow. So it's satisfying 4,000 acre feet for the first 8 months. 4 times 8 is 32, but it has a total volume of 35,000 acre feet, which makes sense. So the last 3,000 acre feet in the blue line right here, this is September, is coming from Reservoir 1. And then also in September, the last 1,000 acre feet per month is this orange line right here coming from Reservoir 2. After that, the last 3 months of the year here, we have a 4,000 acre foot demand satisfied by withdrawing water from the Reservoir 2 account. I'm going to check out the Reservoir 2 data now. So we were already here looking at the Reservoir 2 volume, where this is the release, and then this is the volume. If I wanted to look at these numbers here, I could go up to data and then open up Reservoir 2. Let me just scroll over. Boom. Here are the releases from Reservoir 2. So the first 5 months, there's no releases. After that, we're seeing a release of 1,000 acre feet per month. This is from demand node D1, and that continues for September and October. And then demand node D2, what's happening here is it doesn't need any water from Reservoir 2 for the first 8 months, but on the ninth month, which is right here, where it says 2,000, it needs 1,000 acre feet per month. And then after that, it needs 4,000 acre feet per month for months 10, 11, and 12. So these release values right here is basically the sum of the withdrawal associated with demand nodes D1 and D2, taking into account for this weird situation where September water for D2 is coming 3,000 acre feet from Res 1 and 1,000 acre feet from Res 2. So I'm going to go ahead and make a few changes to the input data, run it one more time, and take a look and see how those results change. I'm going to click on demand node D2, open up the properties box, and then we'll keep the priority at 90. For the time series, I'm going to change this to just 2,000 acre feet per month, fly, and OK. And then the other change that I'm going to make here is right click on the multi-link to D2. This is the storage ownership link and properties. I'm going to modify the release order, the relative order of release. So this time I'm going to have D2 draw from Reservoir 2 first. So to do that, I'm going to click on the D2 Res 1 ownership link. edit that. And then what I'm going to do instead of relative order of use, I'm going to change that to 1 to a 3, which means it's a higher number than 2, which is the relative order of use for D2 Res 2. That should change the priority as far as the order of which reservoir water gets withdrawn from first to satisfy that demand D2. Okay, I'll click apply, click OK. That order of use is updated to 3. So now 2 is the smaller number and water will be withdrawn from reservoir 2 first. Apply, OK. I'm going to go up to File and Save, and then MODSIM and Run MODSIM, and then click OK. All right, so that ran. Let's go ahead and look at the Reservoir 1 data first. Here's the graph. Okay, cool. That's what I expected. The volume starts at 60,000 acre feet. Now keep in mind, D2 in this simulation doesn't use its count storage from Reservoir 1 at all. What we're seeing here is simply demand node D1 is using all of its remaining 5,000 acre feet of water from that reservoir D1 until it has no more. So the slope of this line is going to be negative 1,000 acre feet per month. And then the final volume in this reservoir at the end of the simulation, and actually at the end of May, is a constant 55,000 acre feet. If we check out the plot for the flow, it's just releasing 1,000 acre feet per month for the first 5 months. I already said that. Okay, let's check out Reservoir 2 now. Right click on Reservoir 2 and graph. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is the flow. This is the release from Reservoir 2. It looks like we're releasing a constant 2,000 acre feet per month for the first 5 months. That's satisfying demand node D2. And then once demand node D1 wants its water, it's requesting an extra 1,000 acre feet a month from Res 2. And that's why the release jumps up to 3,000 acre feet per month until its storage account balance for D1 Res 2 has been exhausted, and then the release continues 2,000 acre feet per month from Res 2 to D2. So this again would represent the negative slope of the volume plot from Res 2. Let's check that out. Volume, yep. So this slope right here is negative 2,000 acre feet per month, and then it transitions to negative 3,000 acre feet per month, and finally the last 2 months of the year is negative 2,000 acre feet per month for the slope. Well, that's it for this exercise where we talked about storage rights and storage right reservoir in MODSIM. Created a couple of storage rights reservoirs, each with 2 storage accounts for demand node D1 and D2. And then we edited our storage ownership links, made the connection, changed a couple of the demands and the priorities, and then ran the simulation and looked at the results.